Happy Saturday, Risers. Hope you all are safe and well. Sagar and I are back with some of our favorite moments from our interviews this week. Planet of the Humans Executive Director Michael Moore was accused of attacking climate change leaders and urging population control in his new documentary. But he told us this week people deserve to know the truth about the not-so-green side of renewable energy sources. Here's what he had to say.
We saw some of our environmental groups hopping into bed with corporate America. And you've seen this happen over the last decade. How they all gone green. They all tout the big green thing, and they saw basically that enough of us believed in green because we want to live, we want this planet to live, and so they saw, wow, there's the supply and demand right there. The demand is for green. Let's give them green and let's make a lot of money off it.
Certainly.
I think the failure of the movement has been to address this serious flaw, which is we are not going to save the planet or ourselves by allowing Wall Street, hedge funds, corporate America to be anywhere near us as we try to fix.
Yeah, that was a really interesting interview.
It was.
And honestly, I didn't know all that much about the film and the controversy surrounding it. And, you know, we had Josh Fox on, as always, to rebut that, and because it caused so much. But I think that it's a valid point, so much of what he's saying, which is that, and he talks about greenwashing, like LEED certificate, and the way that corporate America is able to buy off a lot of the activist movement, and much of that with rhetoric and with programs and all of that, while realistically, if you actually care about what you're saying, then this is something that you want to be considered. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that much of the criticism leveled at the field is more about protecting a political legitimacy within somebody else's movement than anything else.
I did a lot of research on this, and it's very thorny. And we did have Josh Fox on, who's the filmmaker behind Gasland, who was the activist who was leading the fight against this film, who got it pulled. Right. A lot of other thinkers in the movement signed on to that letter. And they make a few points. I mean, one of the points they make, because the central theme of the film is that renewable energy is not the panacea that you think it is, that it relies on these dirty industrial processes, that it doesn't produce nearly the amount of energy that we would need, and that you can't pretend like technology is just going to fix this thing. We're going to have to fundamentally rethink the way that we live. And if you're not serious about that, you're not serious about dealing with the issue. I think that is a real point. I also think that they were sloppy in some of the ways that they went about it. They did use technology that was out of date. They did take some cheap shots at some of the people who were involved in the film. So they sort of left themselves open for criticism, and yet I do also think that they make certain points that are incredibly important. And so because this was thorny, we brought you both sides of it. I hope that you all will take the time to watch both the interviews, and if you're interested in it, the film, which has gotten millions and millions of views. I mean, it really touched your nerve for sure.
Absolutely. So I really enjoyed it. All right. And this week's bombshell reports that were released, they corroborated some details of Tara Reade's accusations against Joe Biden. 1993 Larry King live video resurfaced that featured Tara's mother calling into the show to talk about her daughter's alleged assault. Investigative reporter Rich McHugh, he interviewed Tara's former neighbor at the time of the alleged assault, Lynda LaCasse, and Tara's mentor after she left Biden's Senate office, Lorraine Sanchez. Here's what he told us about both of those accounts in his reporting.
I interviewed her 4 times because I was like, I need to make sure that the story she's telling me doesn't change. And so it never did. But in that, I said, is there any axe to grind here? Is there something you're, politically going after? And she said, no, in fact, I am a lifelong Democrat, and I will be, regardless, I will be voting for Joe Biden. But this needs to be said, because it did happen. She did tell me this. And so when I heard that, I was like, that, she's entirely credible. I couldn't find anything in her past that refutes that. And this other allegation, or this other voice coming forward, is a woman named Lorraine Sanchez, who mentored basically Tara in 1995 and 94 through 96 after working in Senator Biden's office. And she basically says that when Tara arrived there, she recounted the story of sexual harassment, not assault. She didn't say the assault, and she didn't say Biden, but she said Tara was definitely terrified and traumatized by what had happened to her, working in D.C. by her former boss.
Now, Rich is a real reporter who's been tracking down this story. Used to work, he was a producer for Ronan Farrow when they, were chasing down the stories on Harvey Weinstein. Like, he really knows what he's doing in all of this, and had this bombshell report that came out providing significant corroboration for Tara's claims. And yet, as we covered here on the show, no one except for Fox has asked him to come on and talk. You know, we hear all this hand-wringing about where are the weak. Let's rely on the journalists and let's not have it be litigated on Twitter, etc. Great. Rely on the journalists. Here's a terrific one. He was happy to come on our show. I'm sure he would be happy to accept some requests elsewhere as well. Have we heard any of this from him on any of these shows? No, we have not.
Even more revealed in Ben Smith, who we had on the show yesterday. He had a column very much expanding on what he was talking about in his Thursday appearance. What did he talk about in that piece? He scooped that Rich approached Vanity Fair with this story and that they turned it down. So he had to go to Business Insider as a freelance journalist. Why is Vanity Fair, a magazine which has run so many of these Me Too stories and it covers this, why did they turn that down? I think you know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, huge bombshell scoop, and they pass.
Who passes on that?
Unbelievable.
Unless you have a political agenda.
Well, there you go. Finally, we had on great friend of the show and former national co-chair for the Sanders campaign, Nina Turner. She weighed in on Jeff Weaver's new progressive, well, not progressive, I don't know, new super PAC, we'll call it that. Here's that response.
But, you know, everybody gets to choose their path. And so that is their right to do, even though there are many of us in the movement who do not agree with it. So what do? We continue to forge a progressive fight against not only tactics like that, but continue the mission of this movement, which is to lift and get better for people than what they have right now, and really to change the face of politics and to get excessive big money out of politics. Forming super PACs in that way do not help that. Furthermore, progressives on the Bernie left, most of them are not going to be supportive of that action and will probably most likely not donate to that PAC because it is the antithesis of what the Sanders campaign was fighting for. It goes against every single edict of that campaign, everything that we were fighting to transform and to change. So as some folks say in the country, that dog don't hunt.
Nina says it all, doesn't she? I mean, this was a real controversy on the left this week when it was reported, I think by the New York Times, that Jeff Weaver is a longtime advisor of Senator Sanders, who was with him in the 2016 campaign, with him as a senior advisor in this campaign, was one of the people who reportedly was pressuring Bernie to get out of the race and sort of negotiating those terms. Turns right around and starts a super PAC, not just any super PAC, but one explicitly to help Joe Biden get elected. Yeah. That was a hard thing to watch.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, it's interesting. I do think to see about how they're having to grapple with this movement. I see various like fractures within the post-Bernie left, and that certainly is one of them, which is, I mean, not only progressives, by the way, but he was trying to get progressives to vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
With a super PAC. I was like, wow, that's something.
That's bold.
That's certainly something.
That does it for us. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be back later today with a great segment with Katie Halper breaking down the week that was in media screw-ups.
And tomorrow we're going to be back for another round of #RisingCues. We'll see you guys then.